thrust upon us that Time magazine was naming Asia Wilson one of the women of the year. Now, I think there's like 10 or 12 of them that's in this magazine. I think 12 that were in this magazine. And, of course, it has to do with, hey, who inspired women, transcendent, yada, 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 right? Who had a massive influence in all things involving women.
You won't believe this, seriously, not in a million years. Just when it seemed like Caitlin Clark had done it all, Time magazine pulls the most unexpected move of the year. And right at the center of it? AJA Wilson. At this point, it feels like they're just making things up for the fun of it. I even had to check twice to make sure this wasn't some kind of prank. But nope, it's real, and trust me, you're going to want to hear every detail.
Where was Caitlin Clark exactly in this? Why couldn't you put Asia on this list and Caitlin Clark? Because when you really think about it, and I don't know why I didn't really bring this up yesterday, why the hell wasn't Caitlin Clark on this list? Let's just come out with it. Let's just put it out there. Why was she not on this list? It's kind of unforgivable, to be honest. When you really start thinking about it, it's rather confusing.
Time magazine really thought they could leave Caitlin Clark off their Women of the Year list and no one would notice? This is the same Caitlin Clark who was just named Athlete of the Year, male or female, a few months ago. Did they really think people wouldn't catch that? Like, we're just supposed to ignore it and not ask questions?
So the 23-year-old basketball phenom got the Athlete of the Year award. The honor, what's the big whoop? Well, Time recently unveiled their Women of the Year issue. And guess who didn't make the cut? Caitlin Clark. I'm not sure how a woman can win Athlete of the Year award and then fail to be named one of the best women of 2024. As the kids say, the math ain't mathin'.
Caitlin Clark is hands down the most famous women's basketball player in the world right now. She's breaking records, pulling in the highest viewership numbers, and single-handedly bringing women's basketball into the mainstream. And yet, somehow, she didn't even make the list. But guess who did? AJA Wilson.
Dear friend, Caitlin Clark did not make the cut. Folks, don't overreact. Don't get angry. Don't get frustrated. Don't be surprised. I don't think anybody should be surprised by this. And this isn't Asia Wilson's fault. This is just Time Magazine doing what Time Magazine does.
Let's break this down because it makes zero sense. Caitlin Clark has turned women's basketball into the biggest story in sports media. The NBA is literally asking her to play in their All-Star game, celebrities can't stop talking about her, and TV networks are scrambling to air her games. She's not just a star, she's a full-blown cultural phenomenon. And let's not forget, she's a beast on the court too, breaking 62 records just in her freshman season.
Calculated that Caitlin Clark was responsible for $36 million in economic impact to the city of Indianapolis, and that she is responsible for 27% of the entire WNBA's economic activity for this past season, including attendance, merchandise sales, and television. One player in a big league responsible for 27% of the economic impact and economic activity for the WNBA. One person more than a quarter of it.
Caitlin Clark's impact goes way beyond basketball. She's already bringing in millions for the WNBA before even playing a single pro game. Ticket prices for Indiana Fever games have hit record highs, arenas are selling out like never before, and major networks like ESPN are rushing to air more WNBA games, all because of one player.
Time Magazine backed themselves into a confusing corner with their latest blunder. This is a Whiskey Riff right here. When they crowned their Athlete of the Year last year, they did the right thing by giving the title to Indiana Fever star Caitlin Clark. Surprisingly, there was some backlash to the decision, which is absurd, with many in the WNBA saying the award should have been given to the entire league instead of just Clark.
And yet, Time Magazine completely ignored this massive cultural shift in favor of the safe pick, AJA Wilson, who's constantly complaining about not getting enough recognition. Now, don't get me wrong, Wilson is a great player. She's a WNBA champion, a multiple-time MVP, and a dominant force on the court. But let's be real, she's not the one transforming the league. That credit belongs entirely to Caitlin Clark. And somehow, Clark isn't even a footnote on Time's Women of the Year list? This isn't just a snub, it's a joke.
The Mystics owner went on CNN and was like, I think it would have been nice if they'd have put the entire league on the front cover of Time magazine as Athlete of the Year. Well, there wasn't but one athlete that was moving all the numbers. All right, that was influencing all the money. Gate revenue, attendance, ratings, all the stuff we've talked about. Right? There's only one. Right, wrong, or indifferent? Just one. Plays in Indiana, wears 22.
Caitlin Clark didn't just have a good year, she had a historic one. She shattered records, sold out arenas, and brought in TV ratings the WNBA could only dream of before she came along. Meanwhile, AJA Wilson's games were getting fewer viewers than reruns of * The Price is Right star. But somehow, she's * Woman of the Year *? Yeah, okay, Time magazine.
You're talking about GOATs of the W. I need my name to be up there, at least top 3. Like, that's my goal, is like, I want something like, when you're thinking of women's basketball, when you're thinking of the W, I want my name to be on it.
Come on, tell them, Asia, tell them.
Takes, like, whatever it needs to get there, whether it's the rings, whether it's the accolades individually, like, I want to be up there in that.
Let's be real about AJA Wilson for a second. She's been in the WNBA for years, and outside of hardcore fans, nobody really paid attention. The only time people talk about the Las Vegas Aces is when they're running up the score in blowout wins. And yet, Wilson gets all the praise while Caitlin Clark, the only player actually changing the game, gets completely ignored. Make it make sense.
From Asia, there's days where I'm struggling. It's moments where no matter how hard you work, it still feels like you're not getting the recognition. It still feels like somebody's got to say something to say. I needed them to understand that they help me in more ways than they'll ever know. It's hard showing up every day and wearing this crown. It's heavy. It gets extremely heavy. But at the same time, I'm going to fix it, make sure it's straight, and I'm going to go ahead and do my...
And let's talk about the backlash because it's been * loud star. The internet didn't just notice, people are * furious star. Sports analysts, journalists, and even casual fans are calling out * Time magazine * for one of the worst snubs in recent memory. Even people who don't usually watch women's basketball are asking how Caitlin Clark wasn't even considered. But here's where it gets worse, this isn't just about Clark. It's about how women's sports are recognized in general. * Time magazine * had the perfect chance to highlight the single biggest force in women's athletics today, someone who isn't just dominating her sport but actively transforming it. Instead, they took the safe route and stuck with the establishment pick.
Time chief executive officer even said herself that the list was recognizing visionary leadership in women who are inspiring global change. I'd say that Caitlin Clark has done just that in the past couple of years for the WNBA and women's sports at large. I mean, would your average sports fan even know who Asia Wilson is if not for Caitlin Clark? That's an excellent point.
And that's what makes this even more frustrating. * Time magazine * had the chance to solidify Caitlin Clark's impact as a defining moment in sports history. Instead, they completely overlooked the one athlete who has done more for women's sports in the past year than anyone else on the planet. But the worst part? * Time magazine's * credibility is in shambles. How can you claim to celebrate women making an impact and then ignore the one woman who is literally reshaping an entire sport?
Asia Wilson has been nitpicking with Caitlin Clark, almost like anything you can do, I can do better situation. And this is another case of that type of scenario because Time magazine, let's pull it up right now. Now, I was stunned when I seen this guy. I was definitely stunned when I seen this. As you guys can see here, Time magazine has named Asia Wilson, and which Jordan Childs definitely deserved this. Jordan Childs, Women of the Year.
This wasn't just an oversight, it was a deliberate choice. And now, as the backlash keeps growing, * Time magazine * is scrambling to defend it. This was never about recognizing real impact, it was about playing favorites. And in doing so, they played themselves. Now, Caitlin Clark's fans aren't just mad, they're making * noise star. And the next time * Time magazine * tries to act like they care about sports, no one's going to take them seriously.
What are we talking about, man? All you got to do is be a teammate of Caitlin Clark or have a rivalry with Caitlin Clark or have an incident dust up with Caitlin Clark or say something slick about Caitlin Clark on Twitter.
What are we even talking about here? All you have to do is be Caitlin Clark's teammate, have a rivalry with her, get into a little dust up with her, or say something slick about her, and boom, you're in the spotlight.
Do you know who Asia Wilson was without Caitlin Clark? I'm willing to bet you 65 to 70% of the very people that are watching the WNBA today did not know who she was at this time last year before the WNBA draft. And before they started actually playing games, and Asia Wilson decided to run her mouth like, what was it, about 10 days, 2 weeks before the season started when she went on this big, yeah, it's a black or white thing, and I don't like it that y'all don't want to recognize it.
Let's talk about adversity, because if there's one rookie who's faced more hate than anyone in WNBA history, it's Caitlin Clark. From the moment she stepped into the league, it felt like half the WNBA was out to get her. Players took cheap shots at her on the court, veterans mocked her for becoming the face of the league overnight, and media personalities threw shade, questioning if she was even that good.
Blew up women's sports. Caitlin Clark, who influenced all of these little girls we saw in these games last year, right? At all these games all over the country, those little girls lined up of all ethnicities and races, wearing their little 22 jerseys or T-shirts, wanting to see who and get whose autograph. Caitlin Clark. There you go. I mean, I don't know what else to say.
Meanwhile, AJA Wilson gets nothing but praise, like she's the one carrying the WNBA, like she's the reason the league is suddenly in the spotlight. But let's be real, Caitlin Clark is the one doing all the heavy lifting. She's the one breaking records, pulling in historic viewership numbers, and making the WNBA relevant to people who never cared before. And yet, Time magazine ignored all of that and handed their Woman of the Year award to Wilson, like Clark's impact meant nothing.
It's quite remarkable. I've never seen a professional league just actively attempt to tear apart their ultimate star. Washington Mystics owner Sheila Johnson wants to know why they couldn't have put the whole WNBA on the Time cover and called it the League of the Year. And of course, she said that because her argument is Caitlin Clark is not the only one that moved the needle for the WNBA.
So let's ask the obvious question. What exactly did AJA Wilson do to deserve this honor? Win a championship? That's cute. Because while Wilson got her trophy, Caitlin Clark won something much bigger. She made the WNBA relevant star. And that's a championship no one else in the league, not Wilson, not any other player, could have won without her. Giving Wilson times Woman of the Year is like handing the MVP trophy to a role player while the real superstar carries the entire league on their back. It's rewarding consistency while completely ignoring the game-changing talent that's redefining the sport.
Let's take a second right now to have a moment of silence for Washington Mystics owner Shelly Johnson, who suggested that the WNBA as a whole should have been on the cover of Time magazine instead of just Caitlin Clark, who graced the cover last week, which is probably some of the stupidest I've ever heard.
But no, let's reward the safe choice. Let's ignore the fact that Caitlin Clark has been dealing with a league full of players who seem to have a personal vendetta against her just for existing. Let's pretend she wasn't getting fouled so hard that even NBA players had to call it out. Let's act like she hasn't been under more scrutiny than any WNBA player ever star. Time magazine fumbled this so badly, it's honestly embarrassing. They had a chance to recognize the biggest game changer in women's basketball history. Instead, they played it safe, picking the politically correct option so they wouldn't upset WNBA veterans still bitter about Clark's rise.
Wasn't a championship locker room, Wilson said. I mean, out of the gate, going into training camp, I was like, we ain't got it. Wow. Okay. That's crazy. I always told myself, we're going to get it. We're going to check each box, but we didn't. Oh, man.
And AJA Wilson? She had no problem accepting the award, knowing full well that Caitlin Clark is the reason more people even know her name now. Wilson gladly took the spotlight while Clark was the one selling out arenas, generating millions in revenue, and turning women's basketball into must-watch TV. Now, let's talk about Wilson's leadership, or rather, the lack of it. This is the same AJA Wilson who, just a few months ago, was throwing her own teammates under the bus. The same Wilson who publicly said her locker room wasn't a championship locker room, blaming everyone but herself when things didn't go her way. Instead of leading her team, she was venting to the media like she was on a reality TV show. And this asterisk is who Time magazine chose to put on a pedestal?
Asia Wilson, she kind of admitted that the Aces were not like championship ready this last season. She said specifically it wasn't a championship locker room. I mean, out the gate, going into training camp, I was like, we ain't got it. I always told myself every game, we're going to get there. We're going to check each box, but we didn't. And then she also went on.
And I actually just want to leave this here real quick. I mean, this shows no loyalty to your teammates. And this just shows, so you felt like this wasn't the team to get to a championship.
Let's not forget, this is a player who, for *1 season, didn't get exactly what she wanted, and suddenly, it was everyone else's fault. Her teammates weren't championship material, the locker room wasn't up to her standards, the organization wasn't doing enough. Oh, but when they were winning, when everything was going her way, she was all smiles, soaking up the praise, acting like the undisputed queen of the WNBA. The moment adversity hit, though, suddenly, it was nothing but complaints. Interesting.
I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna try to be the best. I get y'all saying best player in the world. That's great. It looks great. But I want to be the best person. I want to be the best teammate because that's how I get the best out of my team.
Something about the way she plays the game, her passing, her shooting, that people really identify with. I really feel like we're poised and we're set up for a great, successful next era of FIBA.